It's usually hot inside of Happy's Chili Parlor in the summer. It's a little orange building on 12th Street in Paducah's Frenchtown neighborhood. The restaurant's third-generation owner, Eugene Thomas Jr., says he's working on updating the air conditioning. It's not easy making changes to a neighborhood staple that goes back to 1929. Eugene likes to say his family's business has lived through the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement, and the COVID-19 pandemic. He keeps a worn Bible on the bar where he works, pages barely connected to the spine. There's a pool table, a small stage with an acoustic guitar and a huge industrial fan, and a television on one wall. The last time I stopped by Happy's to grab a burger, it was playing an old episode of Soul Train. On the wall below the screen, news stories highlighting Eugene's businesses over the years, including a Los Angeles Times article about a softball game between rival gangs. We'll come back to that story. On the outside front windows, the restaurant's slogan: "It takes no teeth to eat Happy's barbecue meat." We scheduled our interview an hour before the restaurant opened, but Happy's phone was still ringing off the hook during our conversation. At 70 years old, Eugene has limited the hours to Thursdays and Fridays.
I'm open 2 days a week. I work so hard in 2 days, I figured I should have just kept it open just for at least 5.
Yeah.
Because I get overwhelmed now in 2 days. The rush, the DoorDash, the phone calls, and the walk-ins, and the people sitting.
This week on the Crossroads Suncast, the story of a local institution nearing a century in business. I'm Bryce Patterson.
I remember coming in here and, and hustling and helping my dad and my grandmother. She would cook blueberry pies and chess pies, and she would set me on a stool while she was cooking, and I was her little tester. She would give me a little sample so I could taste it.
As long as he can remember, Happy's has been part of Eugene's life.
We had booths over there where people could sit in the booths if they'd like. And so whenever we got sleepy or tired, Dad would say, go over and lay in that booth and get you some rest, But other than that, you start out emptying the ashtrays, and you think you're doing something real cool and you're being involved with the family business, and then you start taking out the trash, and from there you wind up finding yourself serving tables. Then you learn how to make the dinners, and then as you get a little older and you got your skills together more, you can start making change out of an order.
The restaurant's roots go back a lot further than that.
My grandmother Beulah, she started it in 1929. She retired from cafeteria cook at Garfield High School, which has long been torn down long ago. I think my dad went to school there for a while. And from there, she came here and opened this place in 1929.
The original name of the place? Beulah's.
Obviously, she had a lot of confidence. Like you said, back during the Depression, people were in the soup lines trying to survive.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot of entrepreneurial drive in order to be able to do that back then, And so when my dad took over, it was pretty much already made business. But that don't make you successful. You do have to have that extra something in order to continue to keep your doors open.
Eugene's dad, Eugene Thomas Sr., takes over in the early 1950s and renames the place to Happy's Chili Parlor in honor of his childhood nickname. So Eugene is born into the family business. But he says taking it on was never the goal. It took a decades-long journey and a family tragedy to bring him back.
Didn't want to be here flipping hamburgers all my life, stuck in this business. I know my father had admirations for me to be here, be a part of the family legacy, but you know how most young people are. They want to adventure and go out and see what's going on. So I have a brother who's in Flint, Michigan, and he worked for the General Motors. And I was in the 11th grade, and so I decided I wanted to leave and go to live with him.
Young Eugene ends up in Flint, but he can't get a job at GM with his brother. Instead, he starts at an iron foundry, working a punishing schedule.
And so I went to school in the mornings, and I got out of school about 1 o'clock, and come home and change and get ready to go to work. And so I had to be at work at 3, and I'd get off like 9 or 10 at night. So a lot of times I took my books with me to work. So when I had a little break at lunch, I would try to do my little homework. And then when I got home for that night, about 11:30, I would finish up whatever so I could be prepared to go to school the next morning.
From there, he joins the Navy and discovers a passion that will stick with him for the rest of his life:
they put me in the ship's barber shop. And so I was the ship's barber for 4 years. I got out as a second-class petty officer, and I utilized my GI Bill to pursue the hair career. I went to cosmetology school at El Camino College, and I went to barber school at Boston School of Men Hair Design in Long Beach.
During that time, he learns another skill that will shape his future.
So I learned to barbecue after I got out of the Navy. The unemployment office in Compton sent me to these two ladies who were retiring from McDonnell Douglas, and they were opening their own barbecue business, and they said that I would be a good fit for them. And so I would go open up the business for them in the morning, make prep for the barbecue pit and season up all the meat for them, and they would come in about 10 or 11, and they actually did most of the barbecuing, but I had that watchful eye going.
Barbecue wasn't a staple at Happy's until Eugene took over. In Los Angeles, Eugene takes his first steps into entrepreneurship. He opens a barbershop in Long Beach, California. Things continue to grow from there.
I opened up another shop on Atlantic in Long Beach, 1909 Atlantic. And then I was expanding, and I opened up a shop in L.A. on Martin Luther King Boulevard, 1440 West Martin Luther King. And then I opened up a couple restaurants on that block.
Those businesses become deeply embedded in the community.
You know, through 50 years of being in business in California, then you see these kids grow up. You know their grandparents. You're there for them doing the funerals. You did fundraisers for different people that are going through their hardships. And so you build a connection from Long Beach to LA, and people were coming from Santa Barbara, from the Valley to get their hair cut at my salon.
Over the course of his time in LA, Eugene puts together a huge wall of fame, photos with famous artists and performers.
This is Earth, Wind & Fire. This is Verdine White. This is Philip Bailey. And this is Fred White. You know, Don Cheadle. Have you raised him up? I've been knowing Don Cheadle for years. This is Ed McMahon. The night show here is Johnny. And so he made me take that picture with him. I said, no, Ed, I'm all right. He said, no, Eugene, you're going to take your picture. And so I took that picture with him in front of my hair salon.
His grassroots connections in the community come into play in spring 1992, when the city explodes into violence. Local TV station KTLA broadcasts a video showing multiple police officers tasering and severely beating an African-American man, Rodney King. 4 officers are tried on charges of excessive force. A jury acquits those officers on almost all charges, deadlocking on 1 assault count. Almost immediately, there are reports of businesses looted and burned. City leaders impose a curfew, and thousands of members of the California National Guard and the U.S. military descend on the city. Over the course of that period, thousands of people are arrested, more than 2,300 injured, and more than 50 people are killed.
For doing the riot, when they were burning up everything, those same people, those gangbangers, put a stop on people trying to burn up out my business. They said, this one business you don't touch. So I made it unscathed because they stood up for me and they wouldn't allow that to happen. But at the same time, we had the National Guard to come in, and because of the racial tension, nobody would go and cut their hair. So they came to me, and it was pretty simple for me because I had cut in the service for 4 years. And so I didn't have any kind of racial hangups. And so they had me to come down to the Coliseum, and right next to the ticket booths at the Coliseum, I had a chair, and I'd plug in right there by the booth. And then they would line up all around the Coliseum.
3 months after their acquittals, the officers involved in beating Rodney King are indicted on federal charges of violating his civil rights. 2 of those officers are eventually convicted. The city pays King $3.8 million. Decades later, in 2017, Eugene's barbershop plays host to negotiations between rival gangs. It's part of an initiative to make peace between groups that have been violent rivals for decades. The goal? A softball league, encouraging friendly games between neighborhoods. As a local hangout on the boundary between different gang territory, Eugene says his shop was a safe place for the groups to negotiate. There have been dozens of those softball games in the years since. Back to the 1990s. Eugene's businesses continue to thrive in Los Angeles until tragedy strikes.
My dad was robbed in 1998 and fatally wounded. And I came from Los Angeles left my business in California to come back to see what I could do to assist the family. And I wound up being the one who had to step in the shoes of my dad and take it to where we're at today.
Eugene Jr. had recently visited Paducah to help his dad out at the restaurant. That was the first time barbecue appeared on Happy's menu. The murder of Eugene Thomas Sr. remains a cold case with the Paducah Police Department.
I came back thinking I was going to be a part of the family support and then go back to my business in L.A., but as it turned out, Dad owed the bank, he owed taxes, the credit cards, and the overhead was so much to where if we wanted to keep this business in the family, then I had to make a decision. They sent us a letter saying, we're sorry about your situation with the passing of your dad, but your dad has a loan here. And then if something doesn't happen, we may have to put a lien against the business. So that kind of put a little fire under me.
Eugene says it took about 6 years to pay off the deficit with the bank. He heads back to California in the early 2000s and hits another roadblock.
But I was on my way back to reopen my hair salon, actually, because I had to sell it. And then the owner, who I knew very well, we were having a good, tight relationship. And he called me one day and said, Eugene, do you think you want to come back and reopen your shop? I said, sure, Bob. He said, well, you come on, you just send me so much money and you come on back. On the way to California, the U-Haul truck caught on fire, burnt up all my possessions. And the only thing I had was the clothes on my back and some money in my pocket.
He's able to right the ship and get his business going again.
I often go back and forth to LA. Like I said, today I still have a hair salon in Inglewood, and I have some operators out there maintaining and keeping it going. And I get a lot of calls from my clients out there.
Now, he says, he's looking to the future.
If nothing else, I would like to at least see us make it to 100 years.
Eugene hopes to build out an apprenticeship program and bring in more live music. And he hopes to keep Happy's in the family.
I got 2 little girls now, and one is 3 and one is 7. And my 7-year-old, she acts like she's very much interested in being a part of the family legacy. And so she's just not old enough right now. But I can remember I started younger than her being involved with our family business. And so, but I hope the Lord bless me to be around long enough to where we'll see where she go with it.
Video and sound for this episode by Jaden Sanders. Additional script support by Audrey Holmes. If there's a story you'd like to hear on Season 2 of the Crossroads Suncast, reach out. Email us at newstip@WPSD-local6.com.